As humans, we like to believe that we can always find an explanation for everything. But what happens when someone disappears without a trace? How can a person simply vanish into thin air, leaving no clues, no evidence, and no answers for their loved ones? In this video, we'll explore the mysterious cases of people who seemingly vanished into thin air. From bizarre sightings and unexplained disappearances to eerie last sightings and haunting clues, we will take a closer look at some of the most perplexing cases in history. Get ready to delve into the world of the unexplainable as we unravel the enigma of these vanished individuals and attempt to shed some light on the mystery surrounding their disappearances. Are you ready to join us on this thrilling journey into the unknown? Let's find out. Our first case is of Owen Parfitt. Others said that Owen Parfitt's wild lifestyle had caught up with him by the time he was in his 60s. In the 1760s, living in Shepton Mallet, a town in southwest England, with his old sister Susanna. He was almost a paraplegic at this point. The mobility must have seemed like a great load to a guy who was accustomed to switching easily from one experience to another. He would go on one last excursion that would draw the interest of Shepton Mallet and surrounding towns. The time is vague. The following allegedly occurred in June of 1763. According to some accounts, while others date it to 1768, we do, however, know that Owen Parfitt wanted to spend a pleasant evening sitting outdoors. He was almost immobile and required to be carried out on a chair onto the front porch by his sister and a neighbor. Owen was calmly seated on the chair when his sister entered the home. Other farm workers were toiling close by and within visual and hearing range of Owen. Clearly, someone would have seen something if they had approached him while he sat on the porch, but no one observed anything. One nightfall, a storm was forecast, so Owen's sister went out onto the porch to bring him inside, but he had left his chair. She questioned the farm workers if they had seen anybody come fetch him, since she knew that he could not have gotten anywhere by himself. None of them had. In a panic, the sister asked the farm workers and other residents for assistance in searching the region. Owen couldn't have gone on his own, therefore it seemed likely that he would be quickly located. To everyone's dismay, they never actually discovered any signs of his leaving. Over time, neighbors began to tell each other stories about what had happened to him, including claims that the devil had abducted him or that pirates had kidnapped him in exchange for information about a hidden treasure, as ridiculous as that may seem. As Owen's extraordinary disappearance went unsolved, it has become a well-known local legend. The incident would eventually go away, but it made local headlines once again in 1813 when a human skeleton was discovered within a seemingly regular building in Shepton Mallet. Everyone immediately assumed that it had to be Owen's remains. As decayed and unrecognizable as they may have been at this point, explanations for how his corpse had met such an unjust death were offered. But when the medical community revealed that the bones belonged to a young girl, the rumors were put to an end. In 1933, there was further development in the region, but it didn't reveal anything new about Owen's fate. He continues to be one of southwest England's greatest mysteries. Sure, there's not a whole lot to this case specifically, but it certainly may leave more up to the mind. Now we move on to Paula Jean Weldon. If it weren't for Paula Jean Weldon, the charming New England community of Bennington, Vermont, would not be very well known. The 18-year-old sophomore at Bennington College left her dorm on a brisk December day in 1946 to go hiking, and she was never heard from again. The enigma started on December 1st, 1946, after spending time with her roommate Elizabeth Johnson and working a double shift at the campus dining hall. Paula made the seemingly innocent decision to go out for a while. Johnson said that Paula was wearing a recognizable red parka coat with a fur-lined hood, blue trousers, thick-soled topsider shoes, and a gold Elgin wristwatch with a black band. Paula's last words were, "I'm all through with studies. I'm going on a stroll." Paula planned to take a long walk along a portion of Vermont's Long Trail, which extends 272 miles from the Massachusetts-Vermont border. Paula's attire and the chilly conditions gave the impression that she hadn't intended to spend more than a few hours outside. Soon after, Danny Fager noticed Paula or a female in a comparable dress with the same physical description. The girl was allegedly spotted running up and down the edge of a gravel pit close to the college entrance by Fager, who operated a petrol station across the street from the college gates. At about 2:45 p.m., this would have happened just after Paula left her room. A guy called Lewis Knapp claimed to have picked up a teenage girl who was hitchhiking on Highway 67A. Relatively close to the campus, 15 minutes later, Knapp recognized the girl's looks as being similar to Paula's and remembered a brief conversation he had had with her. The girl slipped while she was getting back into his vehicle, and Knapp warned her to be cautious before letting her out on Route 9 close to the Long Trail. Paula was once again seen just before 4 o'clock, this time by a number of individuals in Bigfoot Hollow, where she seemed to be moving in the direction of the path. Paula apparently disregarded Ernie Whitman's advice to wear thicker garments before entering the mountains and proceeded on her journey. By the evening, Paula's roommate had naturally become severely concerned. Johnson waited until the next morning to speak to college president Lewis Webster Jones because he didn't want to cause any unneeded worry. Jones called Paula's parents to find out whether she had spent the weekend at home. Paula's mother passed out in her bed from concern, and Paula's father, W. Archibald Weldon, traveled right away for Bennington from his home in Stamford, Connecticut. After arrival, Mr. Weldon immediately got to work, assembling a sizable search team made up of locals as well as students from Williams College and Bennington. Most of the pupils quit in frustration after a whole day had gone by with no outcome. Mr. Weldon requested assistance from the Connecticut and New York State Police. At the time, Vermont didn't have a state police force, but Almo Franzoni was a state investigator, and his participation had no other purpose than to increase the $5,000 prize for information. Days went by without a conclusion. Strange leads began to come in from various sources, including one from a waitress in Fall River, Massachusetts, who claimed to have served a troubled lady who matched Paula's description. Surprisingly, this resonated with Mr. Weldon, who disappeared for 36 hours in order to follow the lead. Yet nobody discovered Mr. Weldon's whereabouts until he arrived back in Bennington. Several people were led to suspect that Mr. Weldon was somehow involved in the disappearance of his daughter because of this. When further information came to light, Mr. Weldon seemed to be even more guilty. According to reports, Paula and her father had a falling out over a potential partner that her father didn't approve of. Mr. Weldon then quickly concluded that Paula's boyfriend must be the culprit, but he had no evidence to back up his assertions, other than the statement that a clairvoyant from Pownell, Vermont, had informed him so. The police's lack of professionalism was criticized by Mr. Weldon on December 16th. Before he left for Connecticut, he was especially horrified that there were no documents preserved for the first 10 days of the inquiry. As news of this spread, reporters flocked to Bennington and recorded whatever they could. The Vermont State Police was finally established in July 1947 as a result of the unfavorable news. The final willing seekers were ultimately forced to leave the Long Trail due to severe weather, believing that any remaining remains of Paula Jean Weldon would likely be hidden and impossible to find. An unsuspecting lumberjack came forward. He said that he had been in Bigfoot Hollow when Paula vanished and that he knew the location of her grave. Attorney Reuben Levin pressed the client mercilessly until he finally confessed to fabricating the whole incident for notoriety. A skeleton was discovered in 1968. In a desperate attempt to finally solve the long-running cold case, investigators raced. They were disappointed once again when it was discovered that the bones were much too ancient to belong to Paula. Independent investigations into the death of Paula Jean Weldon have produced the typical conclusions. Either she went off with a partner or got lost and perished in the elements. One of the stranger possibilities suggests looking into the infamous Bennington Triangle in southwest Vermont, where Paula and 5 other persons went missing between 1945 and 1950. Several others, like New England novelist Joseph Citro, think Paula's disappearance had a paranormal cause. Paula Jean Weldon's unsolved murder case is still officially open, although it does seem doubtful that it will ever be closed. Thank you for joining us as we explore the mysterious cases of people who vanished into thin air. We hope you found this video intriguing. We're really trying hard to improve our content as we go along. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them down below. If you're looking forward to more content like this, be sure to like and subscribe for more intriguing stuff. Until next time, do stay curious.